So we're going to talk about and show you how to remove the brake calipers from a 1972 Citroen SM. This is a US model SM, so has a couple of unique things to make it different from a European version. The headlights have been retrofitted to the European headlights. That's why you see the way those headlights, not the US headlights. And there's a few other changes to the body, like these side lights that are different. But other than that, it's pretty much standard. But for those people who are watching this who are not familiar with Citroens or the SM, they have inboard disc brakes. So if you look through here, right there, you can see the top of the caliper. It's bolted to the differential. I'll get under the car and show you that there are no brakes on the wheels. You can look at the wheel, and there's no brakes there. Okay? The brakes are right there. So we're going to take this out. Now what we've done is put the car up on ramps. There are a couple of ways in which to remove these calipers, and a lot of people might be tempted to remove all of this. This is sitting on an accessory tray that is sitting on just a couple of rubber bumpers there on a little peg for the crossbar, and then it's bolted in front. So you take the intermediate shaft off, take the hydraulic pump off, regulator, alternator, and compressor. So as you can see, that's a fair amount of work to get all of that off, and you're not going to remove the compressor entirely because it's connected to the lines. You don't want to have to discharge the AC and do all of that. So you would lay it off to the side, which presents a series of problems of its own. The biggest problem is that this, if you look at the coolant, at the lower coolant line, okay, that lower coolant line comes across and attaches to the top of the brake caliper. If I can show it to you, let me go underneath here. And you can see that it is clamped. The brake caliper is clamped on the top of, or to the, that's undone right now because this is actually, I'm doing this video after we've done all the work, and so I'm still got more work to do. So that involves, if you were to take all of this off, you'd leave that compressor hanging in the air above that coolant pipe that has to be moved out of the way in order to get that caliper out. So it just becomes a real big challenge. You could hook it off to the suspension sphere and, you know, some way to support it, but it just is a lot more work than needs to be done. So the way we're doing it, the right way to do it is to take the valance off, which is already off. As I said, we're at the tail end of this. There's the valance here, and there's also a plate there that we took off. Probably didn't need to take that off, but we were going to get to that bushing right there on the shift lever arm, or the shift rod, because both bushings were gone. So those have been replaced. And so that's where we're at here. So to do this job, the car is already low on its suspension. It's up on ramps. There's plenty of room to work under here. We're going to take all of the hydraulic lines off of each caliper and then unbolt it and pull it out. It's quite doable. And we're taking the brake ducts out. I've got one brake duct out already. And Robert, let me see it. You can see on the back side,
mine's been cut off.
There is a nut plate here, and there's a bolt that I'm going to show you. has to come off. It's all the way in the back. It's quite difficult to get to. All right, so we're into the car, and I can get in here. You can see the back of that right there. And the problem is getting to it. You got to loosen that just enough to get it so it'll slip forward and come out that hole. And that's what I'm working on. The problem is it's way up in there, and getting an 8mm wrench on it is a little bit of a trick. So we're trying to see if we've got a long enough 8mm to do that.
It's about an inch longer.
All right, just a quick overview. We're taking this hydraulic line here off. You can see it goes up and across, and it's the feed line, okay? It connects to this. This is that line. Now the other line that's got to come off is the bleed line. The brake bleeders are up here. You can just see it right there, okay? And that line comes down and gets to the top of the caliper, so that's got to come off. Once we get those off, then we should be able to loosen the calipers and take them out. I think that's it. Okay, all the lines have to come out. Now, one of the things we didn't talk about was that this, if I can get a light on it, this clamp has to come off right there, okay? So I've got the nut off. That's an 11mm. And I'm going to use a screwdriver to try and pry it off. There. And as you can see, the line here is out of the caliper. So that allows that line to be free to move. Okay, we're on the passenger side brake caliper right now, and I'm casting a shadow with my camera. What I want to show you here is that the coolant pipe comes in and it mounts on a standoff on the brake caliper at the top. Let me zoom in. There we go. Right there. So we've got that loose. There's a bracket further back on the coolant pipe that you need to loosen in order to be able to move the coolant pipe and then bring it up. We've taken a nut off that was on there that was holding the clamp for the hydraulic line that goes across there. And now we're working on removing that hydraulic line from the caliper so that we can pull it off of the standoff. And then we should be able to work on getting the caliper free. Now we're still on the passenger side. We've got this feed line, the brake pressure, the brake feed line, and it travels up here and curves around on top of the transmission. And where you can't see it, I don't think I can get a picture of it. There's a clamp there's a clamp there. And that's tucked in between the accessory bracket and there. So we're gonna get a wrench on that and take that nut off and carefully not lose it so that we can then pull this line out of the caliper. It doesn't want to pull out right now. It should just pop out of there, but somebody's put it in there a little hard, and I need a little more. It should rotate, but I'm going to give it a little more room to move and see if that'll help me get it out of the caliper. Now I'm taking the top bolt out. The bottom bolt is already out, but we wanted to show you how difficult this is. So now I've got it loosened up a little bit. Okay. All right, we're ready to rebuild the calipers. We've taken these calipers and cleaned them. We didn't show you that. We don't think that's all that necessary. And we popped the pistons out with compressed air. So now we're putting it back together. So we've got new seals in there. Again, if you are doing this job and you don't know how to put an O-ring into a brake caliper, I'm not covering that.
Don't do this job.
We're not talking to amateurs. At least we hope you're not. So that piston is in there gently. It's not pressed down yet, but they are tight fit. These are big O-rings. It's what you would call old technology.
And the air pressure required to get a piston out of this caliper is less than 40 PSI. Put 150 PSI in there, 100 PSI, it's going to pop across the room.
That's all it takes. That hammer and a screwdriver. That one happens to have a bent tip, but something of that nature. We'll do the second one. There's LHM smeared around the outside of the cylinder, or the piston rather. So
$180. Done.
that's it. Now you see here, we've got the crossover pipe between the two halves because these are split, but they don't feed pressure side to side. That was not thought of at the time. So they send pressure from one caliper to the other through this pipe. We're going to take this off before we put it back in. We may. This is off of the passenger side, and you kind of wiggle the caliper. We'll show you when we put it back in how the caliper goes in and out. A lot of people might say, oh, you can't do that, but you can.
You turn it on its side.
But on the driver's side, this must come off. You must take all of the pipes off. Don't do like we did. We left one on and then we fought with it. So we have to get it off because we just forgot. But take this pipe, all these crossover pipes and the feed pipes and all. Passenger side, putting the caliper back in. It's got to go in like, it's got to be oriented like that. Now, a couple of things to note. I've taken the stud off here, the standoff, so that we don't have to fight with the coolant pipe. All I've got to do is get it into position. Now I can reach it from behind. I'm pushing on it from behind the subframe here. Just got to get it past the rotor. Why are you giving me a hard time? Pull the shift lever forward. There we go. Just has to get up above the shift arm. And now I'm fighting the coolant pipe. Hey Bob, can you come over and lift the coolant pipe out of the way a little bit? Lower coolant. No, you need to be on the other side. Okay.
Hang on. Pull it out.
There we go.
You gotta get the feed pipe around it.
Yeah, it's around it.
No, you gotta get it in front of it.
What are you talking about? Oh, that pipe there?
I'm sorry, the bleed pipe.
Lift the coolant pipe, if you can. There we go. Okay. All right. Ready for a bolt. Let's see if I can get it in there.
You're nowhere near it. Hang on a minute.
Okay, feels like it started. Yep. Okay. Not sure where. Trying to get that hole. Okay. Just grabbed it. Do it the right way this time. Sadly, I can't get that on the top. All right, so I've been fighting with this for a long time, but I finally got the nut on the pressure line catch. Do not put I made the mistake earlier of putting the crossover pipe in first. Don't do that. Don't drop your wrench. Come here, Mr. Wrench. Where the hell did you go? Well, there's the brake line wire that broke off. We're gonna have to splice it back in. Where'd that damn wrench go? finding here? Jesus Christ. Do we have a magnet available, Bob?
I'm sorry, do I have what available?
Magnet.
I'm sorry?
A magnet. Never mind, I got it. I couldn't get the wrench. I couldn't pick it up. All right. I found, Robert, digging around for the wrench, I found the spacer, rubber spacer, sitting on a subframe. Life of a Citroen mechanic. Always picking up stuff that was dropped on by the previous guy.
Yeah. I'm showing this in regular speed to give you an idea of what it takes to put these hydraulic lines back on. As you can see, I'm able to get it basically one flat at a time.
There's the case of the
Because of my position, I can barely see the nut and get, see the flats. So getting that wrench on there every time is a little bit of a challenge. So this goes on and on and on. But I just wanted to let you see the life of working on these Citroens. It can be quite tedious because of limited throw for the wrenches and so forth in order to get it screwed back in there.
Probably all this work is you're working on your back with your arm extended all the way as far as you can. It's a great way to give your small muscles of your hand a workout. Shit. Check the direction of the ratchet first.
Yeah, get this screw back in shouldn't be any trouble, right?
Okay. So I've got the brake bleed line done, and now the main pressure. Now the crossover goes back in. The seals are already in there because as I said, I had this in there, and I took it back out because there's no way. Wasn't around it. Let's see here. Nope, that's. I think that's a needlessly tight fit. I don't know why that's not bent a little differently. Son of a bitch, come on.
Son of a bitch. Come on over here.
Here you see me using lineman's pliers to get a grip on the pipe because it's very difficult in that space to get a grip on the pipe.
What are you trying to do?
As long as you don't squeeze it, you're not going to do any harm. All I'm doing is using it to wiggle the pipe back and forth and to push it down because my grip with my fingers just isn't adequate.
Dry out already.
All the lines are connected. And it is time to put the pads back in. So remember this clip. It's got to be pulled out and turned down out of the way. And now, with one hand, we will connect the brake wire, warning wire for this side. Because you're not getting two hands up in there. And then I've got to get tools and make that electrical fix.
Here I'm showing you how I held up the coolant pipe for the lower radiator hose. I was working by myself because Bob was busy on the other caliper, and I needed to raise the clamp that mounts to the caliper out of the way. And so I put a zip tie across that cross member, which is in front of the accessory tray, and I put that, and I wrapped the zip tie around the pipe below that you'll see when I go underneath here. So that clamp, that zip tie is around the pipe, and I pulled it up nice and tight so that I could get a nut onto that stud. Now I had pushed the clamp back like that in order to get the stud in there, but it's a little difficult, so it would have been easier to just put a zip tie on there and then get that stud in there, because it took the stud out in order to get the caliper in place, because it would have caught on that bracket and just caused me all kinds of trouble.
Okay, we're going to torque these calipers down. So the process is this. The calipers need to be centered by the brake pads, okay? Now what's going to happen is my helper, partner in crime, Bob, is in the driver's seat, going to press on the brake pedal to hold these calipers in place, and then I'm going to torque them down. Do not try to just center them with the brake and then let it go and then come and torque them, because the bolts will cause the caliper to move a little bit. So the process, this is whether it's on a D or an SM, is to have somebody holding the brake pedal. You got the brakes down?
Yes.
We're torquing these to a torque of 97 pound-feet. I think I need the extension on that. I want to be at an angle if I can help it. We've already bled the brakes. It's important to, that's not hard to do, but on these cars, but do I have? Okay. Sorry about all that. So the caliper bolts were loose when we pushed the brake pedals together, the brake pedal. Yeah, I know, I don't have the bolt. Okay. Let's try that again. Getting leverage. Holy cow. I've got to have 100 foot-pounds on it. Holy shit, man. Yep. Okay.
Done?
You got to do the top one yet. That was just the bottom one. On one side. Oh, this is going to be fun. Because we have a pipe in the way. How do we suddenly have a pipe in the way? What the hell? All right, I was having trouble getting the wrench on there, and it's because, let me bring a light over here. The main feed line, Bob rerouted it, or redid it, all of that stuff, and the result was it was in the way of the bolt, of a wrench getting on the bolt. Okay, let me zoom in on here a little bit. We are now able to get a wrench on there. And you say, well, how did you do that? That's because we used a hammer handle and very carefully pushed the line over. You can do stuff like that with these lines. Never use a sharp tool. Use something like a wooden hammer or dowel or something like that so that it's not going to crimp the line or bend it and kink it. That's the critical part. So we'll continue to get the torque done. Right now it just needs a little bit longer socket that can get on it and stay on it. It's a tight area, So just recognize that. Now let me talk about the bleeding for a second while he's gone. Bring it around, you can see me. And if the key, this is a US car, so it has brake leak detectors. And those cut in if too much fluid flows past the brake valve. So you have to apply light pressure. It takes 2 people to do this, one to step on the brake and one to open the bleed valve, the bleed screw. Run a long hose from the bleed screw to the reservoir. If the person sitting in the car sees the red light come on, you have to do this with the engine running. If it comes on, then you need to lighten up on the pressure. You're going to have to release the brake entirely and then apply pressure again. And listen for the person who's doing the bleeding. These are your bleed screws here. Okay, one there and the other one there. But listen for that person to tell you that they're seeing bubbles flow. If they're seeing bubbles flow, then they're good. Don't press the brake down any harder. Leave it alone. Once the bubbles stop, close the valve and let off the brake.